I have to go to this place, you know, Valmorai. And so anyways, they were pretty, not that I was going to join them, but it was just something I had to get out of my blood, so to speak. So anyway, after doing that, I was supposed to stay 3 days, but it was in the middle of winter, and after spending some time with devotees and getting prasadam and spending a place there, I cut my visit real short. And I came back for prasadam and association of devotees, you know, because it was like a very cold atmosphere, and it was not really very much philosophy, wishy-washy. So anyways, then I remember before going back to Timmins, I stopped in Toronto, somehow visited Toronto. And that's when the temple was still on Gerrard Street. This was around Gaur Purnima, a little bit after Gaur Purnima time. Probably they had it in March or something. And I remember taking some books, because I thought, I got to bring some of these books and try to distribute them, you know, in Timmins. I brought some Bhagavad Gitas and some Bhagavatams, you know. So before that, I stopped in Toronto, and that was the first time I saw devotees really, because it was a bigger temple, more devotees dancing. So, you know, that was the first time I danced in Kirtan. And the floor at the Gerrard temple was a wooden floor that was going up and down. And the devotees, you know, would really jump up and down. And it was an old house. Anyways, I think I spent one day, they put on, I remember seeing the drama of Jagai and Madai. And I had just gotten around to accepting Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And here they were introducing, you know, Chaitanya. I said, oh my God. Another one? So I didn't think about it too much, you know, like Lord Chaitanya, I didn't, you know. And even Prabhupada was like a distant figure. You know, I wasn't looking for a guru as such. I was looking for the truth. I was looking for association of good people, nice people. But, you know, like some people are looking for a guru. I wasn't gung-ho for a guru at that time. So after spending, I guess, one day, and then I went to my hometown, spent some days, attended that wedding, you know, and dined with everyone. It was all non-veg food, so I had to put aside what was not vegetarian and just, I forget, I ate some vegetables, I suppose. And then I told all, you know, my friends that I'm going to shave up, you know. I'm becoming Hare Krishna, you're crazy, you know. So naturally, after finishing, I distributed a good number of books. I used to go right in the street. I mean, I was dressed as with my hair still, you know. And I remember distributing one Bhagavad Gita, I think, to one doctor or something, downtown Timmins, and visited a few friends. Anyways, I went back to Ottawa, and probably within 1 or 2 days I shaved up, because we had already started going on Harinam. And it was, by that time, I guess April, it was getting warmer, and I really wanted to take off, you know. So finally, there was Krishnadas Kaviraj Prabhu. We joined together, actually. Krishnadas Kaviraj and Lakshminath. They joined around the same time. I think he shaved up before I did. And I was a little envious because I joined before him. Things like that, you know. So anyways, so I shaved up real quick, and then, you know, so the three of us were like the same group and whatnot, although they were all younger than me. Especially Lakshminath was about maybe 7 or 8 years younger than me. So we were all there the first year in Montreal. It was nice, small group. And at that time, Jagadish Maharaj, at the time, it was a GBC. And he used to come. Those were the days the days of spiritual sky, incense. And those spiritual sky incense sticks were heavy duty, scented, you know. And we used to put them in our pockets to go door to door. In those days, there was no etiquette for Vaishnav dress. You would wear socks that were different colors and wouldn't think about anything else. And it was like, it was a revolution when, I think it was Dharmaraj who was the first one. One day, you know, he was dressed up real nice. Hey, what happened to you? You know, he said, we got to learn how to dress nicely. We're going to meet people and we should, you know, otherwise we were like à l'envers, you know, I mean, our clothes wasn't neat and it was, I think, clean because cleanliness is, you know, Socham, one of the pillars of Dharma. But we would go, and I remember mostly we would do door to door and Harinam. And those days we're still trying to find out how to survive, you know, because we didn't have any income. Dharmaraj was working at a pump, petrol pump. A Brahmana working at a petrol pump. It didn't last for a long time in life, you know. Brahmanas, yes. So, because, you know, like in the early days, devotees, some of them had to work because we didn't know how to collect money. There were no books practically. We just had the magazine, Back to Godhead magazine. A few small books. We'd go with a can, you know, ask for donations. And we would go, I mean, every day we would go out on Harinam, hours and hours. That was our main activity. And then for the Sunday feast, Friday, Saturday, we would go and collect leftovers from the grocery. And we didn't have any money to buy food. We would beg for leftover vegetables, or whatever, you know, you might be throwing in, and you know, made friends with some of the shops. So like this, we would, you know, okay, even though we would cut and keep whatever's good, and largely we would be doing that. And so I was in Montreal, not Montreal, Ottawa, from January, I guess you could say, 74. And a few times we would go to Montreal. I remember going to Montreal when Montreal Temple was still on, what is it?
Park.
On Park Avenue in the bowling alley. I remember the devotees, because they have a larger number, you know, Ottawa, small temple, only a few devotees, standards are different, no deities. Come to Montreal, many devotees, and everybody working or serving in the kitchen, they're wearing masks in those days. You know, everybody has something on their head, they've covered their head wearing masks. And if you're not an initiated Brahmana, forget about, you know, even Harinam. If you're not initiated Brahmana, you cannot put your foot in the kitchen. You cannot enter the kitchen. It's very strict. They used to serve oatmeal, nice hot oatmeal in the mornings with bananas. And sometimes people would come, even off the street, they would give them some food. The Brahmachari ashram was a real Brahmachari ashram. I mean, in those days, in the early days, I mean, disordered, because there must have been 50 devotees staying in half the place, you know, as an ashram here. So you had clothes all over the place and socks, or whatever socks are there, you just take and whatnot. And I wasn't used to that, actually. I was a little bit disturbed, you know, by the lack of, I would say, tidiness. I wouldn't say lack of cleanliness. Cleanliness was there, but tidiness was definitely somewhat, you know, missing. So a few times we went to Montreal, and then actually Gaur Purnima, 75, a few devotees from our temple, Ottawa temple. By that time I really wanted to go to India. My first service, because I knew something about cooking, was in the kitchen. We didn't have any deities. Our first altar was a cardboard box. We put some maybe paper on it or something, I don't know. And we had a picture of the Panchatattva and Prabhupada. That was our first altar. Then we graduated, we went up to a second level altar. We decided one day we shouldn't have, a cardboard box as an altar. So we took the kitchen table and brought that and made that into an altar. It was a little higher. And I don't remember that we had a Vyasasan for Prabhupada in those early days. Then after that table, we had something made. And anyways, slowly, gradually, the standards came up and the small. So by 1975, I was really envious of those devotees because by that time we had changed president. From Dharmaraj, one devotee by the name of Amshu became the president. Tall American guy. Dharmaraj was also American. Not too many, well, I guess the Canadians, they were mostly in Montreal, French Canadians. We used to visit occasionally Toronto, but mostly we were there in Ottawa. So one time we we heard that Prabhupada was coming to Montreal. Ottawa was like not on the map. Nobody would ever visit. There was only two sannyasis who visited. Satsarup Maharaj, when the library party came through, because they were on a marathon to visit all the libraries in Canada and other countries. So they stayed for a short time, but they were mostly in and out, and mostly dressed in their karmic clothes, meeting people, librarians and whatnot. And then another sannyasi, he visited after I got initiated. Because 6 months, in 74 when I joined, 6 months down the line, before coming to Montreal in 75, that was quite eventful. 6 months down the line, approximately, May, June, Prabhupada was coming to New Vrindavan. So, it's very difficult for people who were not there at the time to understand the mood that everybody was in. The mood of being a Hare Krishna and being part of, being a full-time devotee. And the mood that we had towards, the reverence, I would say, towards Srila Prabhupada. It was like, every news, every bit of information about Srila Prabhupada, everybody was just hankering and waiting to hear. If somebody would get a letter, that letter was not really his personal property. You had to open the letter in front of everybody and read your letter, practically. Prabhupada's letters were very unique, as you know. He used to, when sending them from India, it was those inland, just to save money, and he would sign in the back, in big, his big signature, RP Bhakti Raghava Swami, I'm sure you've seen them. He would sign his letters like that in the back of this inland letter, because it's cheaper to send like that. So we get the information that Prabhupada is coming maybe like tomorrow or the next day to New Vrindavan. So by that time, actually, we, the ones that had joined, we were not initiated, and nobody, I don't remember anyone talking to me about initiation. I knew that, ISKCON was an international society, bona fide, having a fantastic philosophy, had a mission to bring knowledge to people, and it was like the philosophy that people needed to hear, but it didn't click, or somehow, you know, that you should get initiated, or that you need a guru. You know, Prabhupada was there, and so when, I think it was Balakrishna, he asked me one day, don't you want to get initiated? I hadn't thought about it, and you know, it had not come out. Then I was thinking in my mind, well, you know, Prabhupada already has so many disciples. Who am I? You know, I mean, to be initiated, and he, you know, I was feeling that I'm not really needed somehow. I didn't understand that actually I need him, you know, as my guru. So when that information came that Prabhupada was there, we made a real quick decision that by that time, the new devotees, you've all been here for 5 months, 6 months, it's time to get initiated, right? So I said, oh yeah, okay, let's. So we all jumped in a vehicle and drove for 12 hours, whatever it takes, straight from Ottawa to New Vrindavan. So New Vrindavan in those days was, you know, in the early beginnings. And then I remember, although it was beginning of summer in Canada, and it was cold. We had to shave up, because in those days, for all initiations, even if you shaved up last week, you got to shave up again. So we had to go in the morning of the initiation and shave up. It was cold. We arrived late, and then there must have been about 30 devotees, 35 devotees who got initiated. They have it on video actually, but I think they stopped just because I was number 34 to get my beads from Prabhupada. It was outside. I remember it was outside, and Prabhupada was on a big Vyasasan, very scenic, and I just remember that it took a long time for my name to come up, and I was, like I said, before the last. So I went up, and like most devotees also, answered the 4 questions. Then Prabhupada handed the beads and gave me the name. But like most devotees, his first time, Sanskrit name like that, I couldn't remember. So I went, right after that, I went and I asked Jagadish, hey, what's my name, you know? So he said, your name is Raghava Pandit Das Brahmachari, you know. We were all, in those days, the first day you join, you wear saffron. You know, you don't wear white in those days. So we never knew. I mean, I never wore white. So anyways, we just stayed for the initiation, then we had to come back. That was my first, we could say, encounter, or first time I saw Srila Prabhupada. And, you know, by that time, I mean, 74 already, so many sannyasis, so many GBC members. I mean, the whole thing was there, so Prabhupada was surrounded. And second time, I guess I saw Srila Prabhupada was when he came to Montreal. That was 75. He was supposed to stay a couple of days, but because of some events in India, he had an opportunity, I think, to meet with Indira Gandhi at that time. So he had to cut his visit real short. I think it was maybe 5 hours or something, 6 hours. And but he took enough time, actually. He gave a class. Also, he sat in the lawn. You know, when you go out of the temple on the left, there's a small space there. And one day we have to put a memorial there. I mentioned that. Prabhupada sitting on his, what do you call it, chaise versante, rocking chair. And he asked some of the devotees, like Uttama Shloka and maybe Satsarup, to speak. He spoke himself afterwards. We sat on the lawn. Some Indian people were there. And then Prabhupada, he wanted some corn on the cob. I won't tell that. There's not much of a story, but actually I wanted to know if I could maybe help to cook, but already there were enough cooks. But I volunteered to go and get some corn on the cob at the supermarket. So I went and I selected some nice corn on the cob, and Prabhupada cooked it a very special way that I had never known before. In foil wrapped paper in the oven, actually, without peeling it. You know, it's the best way. So Prabhupada, as I said, you know, we were all, the devotees, we went, at that time it was, who was the temple president? At that time, he had an apartment.
Power or something?
No. Anyways, he was president for quite a few years. French-Canadian, actually. Not, I don't know if he's from Quebec. But Prabhupada was staying in his apartment. And not a very big apartment. And we were all, Prabhupada was inside, actually, we couldn't see him. And, but one time he was talking with some other devotees, sannyasis and whatnot, on the 5th canto of the Bhagavatam. So he came out of the room with his Brahman thread. He had to go and pass water. So, you know, we all saw him unexpectedly come out of the room. So everybody hit the floor. I remember not bowing down, just to have a continued look, you know, of Srila Prabhupada. Anyways, he went there. I probably bowed down afterwards, but I didn't bow down right away. Prabhupada just glanced over. Nandi was the temple president. Nandi Keshwar Prabhu. So then he went back in the room, and I always remember one thing, which you know, we had to strain our ears, you know, to hear what Srila Prabhupada was telling. Somebody asked a question about the 5th canto in relation to, because 5th canto is cosmology, you know. Prabhupada said that many devotees will leave after reading the 5th canto. Too many far out things there. So one of the questions Prabhupada, somebody asked him, his reply was that the explanation I gave to you is not from Shastra, it's from the level of realization. I remember that. I don't know if it was recorded, because not everything is recorded, but I you know, that like further solidified my faith in this person, you know, and also in the process that, okay, Shastra is there, but also there's an aspect about realization also. Here the Guru is telling that whatever I explained to you is from the level of realization. It was, to me, that statement hit, I mean, impressed me positively, you know. So anyways, I had wanted to go to India, and then of course next Gaur Purnima was coming up. So this time the three brahmacharis, we all got initiated in 75. So Lakshminath and Krishnadas. At that time he was known only as Krishnadas. It took him 25 years to find out that his real name was Krishnadas Kaviraj. You know that? So whenever you interview him, be careful. His name is Krishna. He came to know of the letter of initiation, I think 25 years down the line. Hey, my name is not Krishna Das. My name is Krishna Das Kaviraj. And from that day, he insisted on everybody, you got to call me Krishna Das Kaviraj. You know. So all of us, we kind of like, you know, convinced our Amsu, you got to take us to India, otherwise we quit, something like that. You know. Anyways, he took us to India. Our first visit, all of us, to India for Gaur Purnima. We joined the devotees in New York. This was the first Boeing 747 flying directly to the Dum Dum airport in Calcutta. That was a historical flight. we must have been close to 400 devotees on that flight, all taking prasadam. And it was a long flight. I think it might have been non-stop. I forget. No, it was not non-stop. We stopped maybe in the Middle East somewhere, because I remember looking out the window and seeing machine guns. We didn't go off the plane. I think we were not allowed to. I forget if it was an emergency stop or something. Sometimes it's like that. But the machine guns were there. It might have been an emergency stop. We arrived in Dum Dum Airport. That's the airport in Calcutta. All kinds of buses waiting for us, first time. But on the flight, in addition to prasadam, taking prasadam and having kirtans and dancing in the plane, you know, there was Mangal Arti. On the plane was Tamal Krishna and Vishnujan. They were carrying their Radha Damodar deities. Those Radha Damodar deities were in the front of the temple. In front of the airplane that had been turned into a temple. And so, you know, one devotee announced, okay, it was Mangal Arti time. We all sang, you know, Mangal Arti. Okay, now devotees, one by one, you know, in a line, you can all come in the front and take darshan. You know, Radha Damodar. Okay, so, you know, 30,000 feet up in the air, we're circumambulating and going around. Well, I mean, having darshan of Radha Damodar. So that was a historical kind of flight, which I think everyone who was on that flight remembers. Anyways, we arrived. Gaur Purnima that year was March the 10th. March the 10th. Naturally, Prabhupada was there, so we got to see Prabhupada again. And then, you know, India. Here we are in India. And I had read some books about India, like everybody else, like many devotees, I suppose. And then I was starting to think, India, wow. I wonder if I could stay in India, you know. And then it just so happened, I mean, in those days it was like, first part of the festival is in Mayapur. Then the second part of the festival is in Vrindavan. So it's all organized, we all travel by group. And those were still in the early days where Prabhupada needed a lot of manpower to help his big temples. Krishna Balaram temple had just been opened, I think, in 72 or 73. Mayapur was still in its beginning, and Bombay was still not open. Prabhupada needed some help. So he told the GBC, his GBC men, you have to select some devotees from your respective zones, and you have to leave them here, and we'll divide them to different temples. And you make an announcement, you know, who would like to also. So this was announced. Wow. It's like, you know, here's an opportunity. Srila Prabhupada is looking for people. So then it was by the, you know, they were having interviews for people who were interested. You can, at that time it was Bhavananda and what's his name? Who had just taken sannyas that year also. Shatadanya. Yeah. They were interviewing people. So it was only by the time we got to Vrindavan, I kind of like mustered up, you know, enough guts to go and speak with them. I had not spoken to Amshu, my temple president. It was only, you know, in my mind. So I went up to them and I asked them, they were both in the room. I bowed down, they were both sannyasis. I was a new brahmachari. And you know, I got my Brahmin initiation maybe 6 months earlier, something, 7 months. I think it was Balaram's appearance, 75, in Ottawa, because that's when we installed Gaur-Nitai deities. Gaur-Nitai deities, special Gaur-Nitai deities. That's when I became Pujari there also. I might have started before that, in addition to cooking and pujari. So anyways, I asked them, do you still need people to serve in India? Are you kidding? Of course we need people. I said, okay, that's good. I have to ask my temple president. And then Chattadanya says, no, you don't have to ask him. I think I should ask him. He says, no, you don't really have to ask him. I said, I'll ask him anyways. I said, okay. So then I asked Amshu, you know, Prabhupada wants people to stay, and we were only like 4 devotees at the temple, and I was the head cook by that time. So I asked him, can I stay? Can I stay in India? Actually, the three of us were thinking that maybe we should stay in India. We even joked with Amshu a little bit about that. But anyways, I was serious in asking him. He says, forget about it. There's no way. You're a head cook. We're a small temple. You can't stay. So I went back to our friends. I told them, I'm sorry, I can't stay. Okay. So the second part of the festival was coming to an end. It was time to leave. We all left Vrindavan. We all went to Delhi. Our flight was at midnight. Usually have late flights. And we checked in our luggage. Luggage is checked in, going on the rails, gone. Standing in line, in queue. Standing in line, it's like, 5 minutes before boarding time, approximately. Somebody tapped me. Somebody tapped me on the shoulder. Hey, you're staying. In my mind, I told Krishna, I'm ready to stay, or I'm ready to go. You decide. That was before, before I went to speak to these devotees. So it was like the first indication was that you can stay, and you don't have to ask your TP. And anyways, he said you can't stay. So I was like, so anyways, when I went to the airport, I was not staying. But in those days, for Canadians, and between the diplomats or between the embassies of India and Canada, because Canada, Commonwealth country, there was no visa requirement. You didn't need a visa to go to India. But India was the first. No, I think Canada. Yeah, Canada was the first to introduce visas for people to go, something like that. Means that India would also follow suit. Means it would be more difficult to come to India. Means you would have to get a visa. So anyways, Jayapataka Maharaj had inquired about all of these things, and he had managed to convince, listen, Amshu, he's come to Canada, he's come to India without a visa. That's very good. If he goes back to Canada now, the laws are going to change very soon, and it's going to be more difficult to get a visa, especially for long term. So somehow he managed to convince Amshu, and so I was pulled out of the line, empty-handed. My luggage is gone. You can't, all my clothes. I had a small bag. I think there was a toothbrush and a soap in it. That's about it. So, okay, I'm staying in India. Haribol, So then we left the airport in a car. I remember, I don't think this was, intentional as such. It just happened like that. But I was sitting in the back seat. On one side was Jayapataka Maharaj, and on the other side was Sridhar Maharaj. he wasn't that big at that time, and I was in between. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they didn't want me, you know, to go out the vehicle or whatever. Anyways, we went to the Delhi temple. They had just finished their Sunday feast. They chose one devotee from South America, I forget his name now, to take me to Mayapur. We took a train the next morning. I was on the train, and they gave us, this devotee and I, a big box of halava, leftover halava from the Sunday feast. We ate all halava from Delhi to Calcutta for 2 days, whatever it took. And came back to Mayapur, my second visit, you know, after Guru Purnima. And it was like empty, I don't know, because empty place practically, because all the